sometimes when people get hurt and they have pain, they'll stop doing the activity. Did you know that?
I go harder.
You go harder.
Welcome back to Past Your Prime, the podcast for active adults and athletes balancing performance, training, and rehab. I'm Alex Keicher, pro volleyball player, working dad, and a guy whose legs haven't felt 100% fresh since roughly 2012. Probably closer to the 90s. I am joined, as always, by my co-host, physical therapist, and strength coach, Craig Smith. So, we recently had someone reach out to you who originally posted on Reddit 4 years ago as a 16-year-old high school soccer player. They put out a desperate post, I think on the Barefoot Running Reddit, if I remember correctly, saying they had chronic medial tibial stress syndrome, MTSS, or posterior shin splints. It had stolen their dream.
Which sucks, yeah.
Playing in the World Cup this year.
That would have been crazy if you ever played in
maybe
it.
Yeah. I don't know what the dream was, but the dream was definitely to play
soccer
or football, as it's known everywhere else in the world.
We just learned today from Danny how to say it. It's football.
Footyball, I think he said.
Football. I thought it was soccer.
Yeah. So it sounds like this Redditor who has contacted you was in a little bit of a brutal cycle, playing a couple of games, getting wrecked by their shin splints, resting for a while, coming back, lost a practice or two, and then breakdown all over again. That post went up 4 years ago. At that time, they had already been suffering for a couple of years, and now 4 years later, as a 20-year-old, are still suffering, but they found you. Maybe they found me.
They found you.
And through me, they found you.
They found us. They found us. Yeah.
Wow. What a nice story.
It is.
So despite custom orthotics, running programs, rehab routine with all of the exercises, ankle rotations, tib raises, calf raises, monster walks, every time they put on their cleats to get on the soccer field, their shins collapsed. That put a beautiful picture in my head of just shins falling apart. You just crumble as soon as you get onto the field.
Good lordy. Yeah.
You're not going to be able to play soccer like that.
I can't remember. You've never had shin splints, though.
I don't think so.
It's a nasty pain.
Can't run for more than 6 minutes without coughing up blood.
That's its own issue. We get an Instagram message, and it's this person like, every time I go running, I start to cough really bad and blood comes up. It's like, we're not helping that. That sounds pretty serious.
You've got COPD.
You got something, and you need some professional help. I'm not going to say we're professionals, but we do a podcast. But we do have a podcast, yeah.
And I think this is not necessarily just a soccer story. I mean, there's plenty of adults out there who, do try to run, play volleyball in my case, or get on the basketball court or whatever activity they're trying to do, and get completely sidelined by the chronic shin pain that never seems to go away. So we've now had somebody reach out who, at least from what I saw on the Reddit post, seems like they were doing a lot of things right on paper, band work, CMPTs, tracking, but still can't survive their sport. Where's the disconnect coming from?
Well, I think it is interesting. He's done a ton of stuff, which that you would think, and typically if it was just a basic issue, he would have had success and then felt better. But the fact that he had it, I mean, just going off of his timeline, so he was 13
when it started.
16's when he put the post up. It's been 4 years, and then he messaged me on Instagram and said that he's still having this issue, still can't really run.
Like 7+ years
of the same thing.
Yeah.
And what's interesting too, I think I've shared with you before, I remember having a kid once who fractured he got better. It didn't even seem like it bothered him. You know, like where kids just have this ability to recover and heal really quickly.
You never told me this. But
Actually, I'm not sure. That's going to have to get edited out, by the way. Yeah, I forgot. That's actually the person. That's way too much. The person would know who I'm talking about. So that one is going to have to get edited out. So you'll beep that out. But yeah, so you can have, I've had kids where they come in and it seems like they have an insane trauma.
The part that was just bleeped out.
Yeah.
Children can recover.
Insane.
Or the youth. I don't even have to say children, but young people can recover at a ridiculous rate comparatively to us 30 plus folks.
Yeah. 440. So when you have somebody come in and they've struggled with it from the time that they were, you know, going through puberty all the way through now, I mean, they're in their 20s. There's something that's there, and when you look at his stuff, it doesn't seem like they put a plan to rule out issues at all. It seems like a whole bunch of random assessments that you can look at and go, okay, I don't think this was fully ruled out or ruled in as the way to go. And this just highlights a lot of the issues I think we've talked about a lot. So I will most likely work with him and get him and do a full rehab. But I thought using his publicly shared information that's on Reddit, which we'll put a link to. And so if you want to read through it, but I hate that it's happening to him. But there's some pretty clear things. Even when you look at some of the answers from the people on Reddit, it is kind of funny. Just some of the things.
It was in the barefoot running.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how Reddit works. I'm a big fan of it, but it's a subdivision. It's a cul-de-sac of Reddit.
Yeah. It is not the busy. I would just guess it's not the biggest area of Reddit, but they do have a lot of foot photos.
Yeah, and that's what Craig was doing prior to. As soon as I walked in this morning, I caught him. He cowered away into the corner for a minute.
But you do see that they go down this treatment thought process, which I get the idea of it.
Well, and it's everything from like diagnosis to the stress of dealing with it for so long. And I mean, I can definitely resonate with both sides of that, with the magnitude of injuries I've had over the years, where like it sucks not being able to play the sports you love, and it also sucks trying rehab after rehab after rehab. And most of the times I've gotten to a better place, I don't think, aside from my wrist that's broken and will permanently probably have some sort of limitation. Like all of my other injuries I've been able to recover from.
Well, I would disagree with you about your wrist. I think the wrist is you've taken on a very clear, you're doing an activity that specifically will hammer it.
Piss it off.
Yeah. I don't think so his issue, I guess the difference I would say, you have a very clear mechanism.
Yeah, and his is super unclear.
There's a lot of lack of clarity, and there's things where you're making very clear trade-offs for what you want to do, which is totally fine. Like there's things that
I'm making a choice.
You're making a choice. Because his does have his thing is very unclear, but what's funny is because of where he has symptoms and because there's a non-specific or a term for it, you get all of these suggestions, but that's not a plan. So at the end of the day, his big thing is he has no plan, and he's absolutely caught in a injury cycle hell.
Well, I think we just dive into it, because I definitely have some thoughts.
Okay.
But from the physical therapist standpoint, what's the main problem with his rehab that you can see based on the information you've been provided?
Well, I think the biggest thing is just to recognize what his cycle is. So he has moments where there's no symptoms. So he'll take time off, and he feels most likely just nothing. So he'll be walking, probably moving around, light loading, and he'll probably feel good. And then he'll start to increase his loading, increase his running. He'll get mild increase in symptoms until it starts to rage and gets really severe. And I think he said maybe up into 2 miles of running in one of his running programs, or if he starts to actually play soccer, he will get such intense symptoms that now he has to stop. He completely deloads for a period of time till the symptoms go away. So he loses his whole feedback loop, and then the cycle starts back over.
It even seemed like deeper than a deload, like an unload.
like a dramatic unload.
Yeah. Like
So he hurts it
almost
to,
no activity.
yeah. Which, I mean, even when you think about that, that can be super confusing, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, I could walk before without pain, but now I can't even walk without pain.
Right.
Those are signs that you didn't just overload your tissue capacity, you reduced it, which is a very big difference. So I think it's just understanding that cycle is actually part of the rehab plan. You have to embrace what his cycle is, and if you don't, you won't get in front of it because you won't
have
own
that
it.
understanding first. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Because like there's gonna be parts of it where you're gonna, when he loses his feedback loop, you're not outside the wood, like outside of the woods. How am I supposed to say that? You're still in the forest.
Outside of the wood. So
You're still in a forest, and if you don't forget that there's wood in forests, you're gonna get confused.
the big bad wolf might find you, and you don't have a brick house.
I don't even know how I could go pull that to make it make sense, but you're not in the clearing.
Yeah.
You're still in a forest.
Or in the brush.
You're still in the brush. Yeah. Oh my God.
Okay, so I think I know what cycle he's caught in. We've called it a couple of things, but the doom loop.
He's in a doom loop. This one is interesting because it's a little bit of a different type of doom loop. I can't tell when we'll kind of get into it, which stress is his issue, but I do want to hit why time off, it doesn't solve it, because I think that's the confusing part. You can tell by most individuals, because our natural inclination is if it hurts,
Don't do it.
that's not you though. I understand that you might be confused by this, but sometimes when people get hurt and they have pain, they'll stop doing the activity. Did you know that?
I go harder.
You go harder. You know, I actually feel like your wife might have said something to that effect of like your knee was hurting, so you maxed out your squat or something. I was like,
Me?
I think it's funny that she knows that
About
clearly.
me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Don't talk to her about me.
I do that all the time. We just have a very open dialogue about your psychosis.
Yes.
But I do think that I think this is something I want to lay out really clear. So if you kind of, and we'll put up a diagram of this, but on one axis you have stress that your body's handling. Underneath it you have the capacity. So if you're watching this, you'll see this graphic. I like to break stress that people have to deal with to average stress and peak stress. So peak stress would be if he's sprinting. That's a stress to the area, whatever structure that's hurting him. Average stress is what his body has to be able to handle and recover from on like a daily basis. And then underneath that, you have your energy capacity, your tissue capacity, and physical capacity. His physical capacity is clearly very high because he can not feel like he's working hard and all of a sudden he's really hurting. And that's such an important concept. But to switch the focus to the stress that you're actually doing on the body, when you take time off, all you're doing is you're taking those stresses and you're completely dropping them to where it's underneath where your tissue capacity is currently at.
At least it should be.
It should be. But the idea is that causes healing. That does not automatically cause healing. All that does is it addresses some aspects of triggers that are happening to that tissue. It doesn't automatically rebuild your tissue capacity to handle the previous stresses that you were at. And I think that's one of the biggest issues when you see people get stuck in this cycle is that the time off trap, because it is a trap. Like you keep doing this, that assumption, not only will you not build tissue capacity if you don't actively try to make it better, you might actually lose tissue capacity, which is kind of what you were talking about, I think, with the unloading, right?
Yeah. I mean, even just with my wrist, I took a month off because I re-injured it, and it seems like maybe it's better now, but could it have been even better had I done some light loading for a month? It's
unclear.
Yeah, unclear.
Yeah.
And then, with unloading, I mean, especially if it's a shins thing, like you're still walking during the day, right? Like that isn't a true full unload, but is that one of your triggers also? So
it absolutely could be.
It could be an easily hidden trigger that's just a part of those average stresses comparatively to maybe sprinting downhill.
Yeah. He would find out later. He tells us, he's like, yeah, also as I was building, I would do downhill sprints. We're like,
yeah.
He's like, and it would
effort.
rage. Yeah. I would go till I felt cracks, and that's not healthy. But you want to understand that time off in itself, that is not a plan. That is you're literally manipulating a trigger. That's all it is. So
You're wishing, you're hoping.
Yes. You're taking a stress, you're dropping stresses down. You're hoping that by taking time off, your tissue capacity can now handle the new stresses. Maybe that's correct. Obviously, though, if you get in this type of recurrence, this like what he's experiencing, that is not a treatment. That's not a treatment.
If it's an acute injury, maybe time off will help a healing process, and then you can come back and rebuild your tissue capacity. But this seems like it's been a buildup over a really long time at this point.
It's an issue. Yeah. So the two big things, just like to looking over, he didn't have a plan, and treating time off with a complete unload as a treatment process is not sufficient. So now I think we can kind of go through the things that I think we should just, this is what if we work with them, like this would be kind of walking through.
What's your process? What's your progression? What's your plan?
Yep.
The 3 Ps.
Say it again. Can you repeat that?
Progress, progression, plan, process.
Okay.
Progression plan.
Process, progression plan. You got the 3 Ps. That's actually pretty good.
You're welcome.
I mean, we have to confirm the diagnosis. That's the number one. We have no idea if his diagnosis is correct. I mean, he's seen people and worked through it, but that aspect of it, I'm not sure if it's been detailed enough or sufficiently thought through. Now, his is actually kind of interesting because it really depends on if he's in a flare or not. Like so you've heard of like the whole idea of a signal versus a noise. Right. So you can have noise that makes it so you can't actually hear the specific signal or see the signal that you want to see. And so with somebody like him, because of the ability for him to handle light load without it hurting, and when he takes time off, the symptoms go away. If he gets examined during that period of time, it's not worth it. Right? It's not worth time. It's not going to tell us. No, not unless it's like an obvious issue. Like if he comes in to see somebody and he has massive calf atrophy. Okay, well now we know we'll rebuild the calf. But if everything looks normal, which I'm guessing because he's not all the way better and he's seen other professionals, what's missing is he has no true feedback loop. You can't get a really good diagnosis in my opinion. So the counterintuitive part on this one is I would want to see him with at least some symptoms. So if he comes in, I would actually absolutely...
It's like, we're going running, bud.
We're going to go see if we can hurt it.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. And I honestly, in these types of situations, I won't work with the person. Like if they come in, we'll do an initial exam. We'll go through, make sure see if we catch anything, but we'll do a very thorough exam so I know what their baseline is. But then they won't come back in until they hurt it. And so it's like, go start to load it. Because that's going to be a very useful
diagnosis.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
and
so much easier when it hurts.
From our previous shin splints, I feel like it's been a lot of episodes ago.
Was it a lot of that? Yeah, it was a while.
I feel like we did a Shin Splints episode a while back, but anyway.
I was looking at Danny. Yeah. He was like, I'm not sure.
Yeah, either way, it's been more than 3 episodes because that's as far as my memory goes. It's like your laugh right there was like the Kawhi Leonard laugh. It was anyway, they just like Shin Splints is a very generic diagnosis is what I was trying to get at.
I feel like you're just like trying to keep moving on. That's not how I laughed at all. Is that how Kawhi Leonard laughs? I actually never seen him laugh. He just says like dead face.
Yeah, he's only laughed twice, I think, in his whole life, and they've both been caught on camera, and they were both hilarious.
Do you know why he laughed?
It was like some joke about one of his teammates or something like that in Toronto, and his laugh was literally like, huh? What? What
was that? Yeah. Are you choking?
If you haven't seen it, go watch Big Hand Kawhi Leonard laugh one time.
He's a great player, though.
Yeah, it'll raise your joy level for that day.
So you were saying
Shin Splints, very generic diagnosis.
It's not a diagnosis, and he has a more specific one, a medial tibial stress syndrome. The differentials for that, though, there's quite a few. Like we've talked about, posterior tib tendinopathy. You could have a soleus issue, a bone stress issue. Especially with his issue, one of my biggest concerns would be ruling out a bone.
I feel like
stress reaction.
It was like I've chalked it down to just being genetic. I think he had replied in one of the comments or something to that effect. And
so genetic. So you could have a way that he's you could have something related to that. Like there could be a connective tissue disorder in his history. I don't think that's the case because you would be catching other stuff throughout his injury history.
Not just shin splints.
Not just shin splints. It's very, very specific to what he's doing. Most likely, we may just support it. He's most likely to have really severe tenderness along the medial tibia when he starts to load. His resistance tests are most likely going to be negative. Like, so we're not going to find that any muscle when I test it hurts. But he would probably most likely be very tender on the bone. So he may have changes to the bone, may have more of a medial tibial stress syndrome, maybe actually bone stress injury. So the bone itself could be unhealthy. You could have a referral from somewhere else. So that'd be an interesting one, but not exactly uncommon. But there's a lot of things that refer to that area. So it's just really, you really need to see it when it actually hurts.
Yeah.
And it's easiest, when it hurts the worst is the easiest time to get the clearest signal.
So just obviously starting with that diagnosis isn't confirmed until it's confirmed.
No.
Yeah.
No. But you know what's interesting? Now that I was on Reddit, there are tons of these cases, and it's hilarious to read through what people say on there.
Give me an example.
Well, so this one guy, so I obviously went down the foot, right? So I started looking at these like different foot injuries.
You can't even talk right now. You're getting too excited.
It makes you sound like such a weirdo.
The foot.
So,
foot. You're tweaking over there, man.
So this
your eye's bleeding.
Well, I did get hit in the face yesterday pretty hard. That's why my eye's all bruised. But anyway, this guy's points at his foot like this is where it hurts. Nowhere near the plantar fascia. Like it's not. It's basically. It's not.
Fascia
it's not.
Isn't real, you muppet.
You muppets. No, but fascia is real. It's just. Oh my god. But anyway, but it was interesting to see what people were diagnosing. But it's probably going to be something we spend more time on. So thank you for exposing me to Reddit. And
I've been telling you about it, but I didn't know that you were not an avid Redditor yet.
I acted like I was just so you quit talking about Reddit. I was like, sorry, no, I'm joking. Weird. So anyway, we have to clear, if we get the diagnosis, that's awesome. But what I think too is there's 4 things to help work through a diagnosis like this. So you have the structural diagnosis, then we have a functional diagnosis. We want to understand treatment response, and we want to understand its triggers. So if we get those 4 things in alignment, we have a really strong idea of what the actual problem is. But it's really thinking, when I say diagnosis, what's the person's problem? You want to absolutely own what the problem is. You don't want to immediately use one thing and then jump to this is a treatment and this is only treatment and think that's a rehab plan. It is not. It's understanding what his problem is really clearly, really in depth.
And it doesn't even need a name. I feel like so many people are just looking for like the name. It's tendinitis. It's your shins hurt.
Yeah. Well,
let's make your shins not hurt anymore.
Well, do you remember when we talked about the layered pathology concept way back in the day? That. And the whole thing with somebody like him, wouldn't it be surprising if he has 2 to 3 things stacked on top of each other, where this is getting triggered. So hypothetically, he has a back issue that's referring down to that spot, or a back issue that's driving an inhibition in his glute that's then driving overload down his leg. And then maybe he has an issue where I think he'd put that he's bow-legged. So he may have like a miserable malalignment issue where his femur's more in internal rotation, his tibia is more in external rotation, and it creates this mechanics at the knee and the lower leg that are really unhealthy, really hard to control. So he may have to have artificial capacity tools forever with running and loading just because he has a mechanical disadvantage. That'd be a functional diagnosis. And so there's these things like where we get obsessed with this structural diagnosis only, or functional diagnosis only. And I do see oftentimes when people think about barefoot, there's obvious changes that happen when you run barefoot. So people will get improvement from it, when really it's like you could have wore shoes, just shortened your stride and got the same advantages. But
I did very lightly go down that rabbit hole when you initially sent it to me, and there was a lot in there like I took my shoes off and started running and now my back hurts, or the opposite, like it solved all my problems in the world, like I'm Superman now.
Born to Run, there's a book by Chris McDougall. Like I'll never forget that book. When we first started our business, was so helpful because we had so many people who started running barefoot and got stress fractures from it. I mean, 50% of my caseload for a period of time. I was telling you like how we have fads.
Yeah.
And it's interesting how those fads drive new injuries is one of my favorite things. Like it is so
Keeps you in
interesting.
business,
Oh, it is.
yeah.
And it's fascinating. Not that there's like, it's just more like that's a treatment first mindset without a game plan. So just don't forget there's multiple ways to think through the diagnosis.
Okay, so we've gone through the structural exam. Have we talked about functional testing yet? I know you just mentioned it there.
Well, like if we do functional testing on it, especially to start with, the idea would be doing stuff to provoke it. So single leg hops, single leg bounds, running. We could look at all of those things and look how it looks. The issue to me with running is I don't like to make assumption on that's what's causing it. So oftentimes so say he's hurting and I think this is what's causing it. Say he's rapidly pronating. So his foot hits the ground, he goes rapidly into pronation. Well, then I'll use a brace to correct it, or I'll tape it so that he can't pronate. And then if that takes away a symptom, okay, now we have a
More of
idea.
a clear diagnosis. Yeah.
If I think it's that he can't do force absorption, I'll put him a pill. Or if I think it's that he's overstriding, I'll shorten his stride. But I have to see that the symptoms drop because of it. If I think it's because the muscle's not firing, I'll do something to either make the muscle fire, or I'll do a brace that makes the muscle like comes up and acts like what the muscle would actually be doing. That's how you rule in a functional diagnosis. So you can catch that something looks off, but if you can't prove it via treatment response, you might just be catching a normal thing what I always think of, like there's a huge difference between performance, which some people will do, and a function driving a pathology. That's not the same thing. And I see that get combined often, especially with this type of a problem.
So you're not going to run them on the now 13-year-old fancy gate machine that's somewhere in storage.
Oh, actually, I did pull it out.
Did you?
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually playing around with it. Yeah. Most expensive piece of equipment we ever bought.
I just remember I looked like a kangaroo. I didn't even run. I just hopped.
Yeah, it was funny. I was like, all right, so is this why he's hurting? Is that he jumps with 2 feet when he runs? It's like a big goofy.
Yeah, that's why I can't run a 10-minute mile, because I only broad jump.
Yeah, I do. You just got to get a tail. Get a tail. That'll help to counterbalance you.
As long as it comes with a front pouch and a baby
What
kangaroo.
are we talking about? I'm like so confused on where we're at. So
I got off track there.
Take it off. But so
functional tests.
Yeah, so the functional test on that, it's actually to make it feel worse and then to correct it. This is not where I'm trying to make a permanent change. It's literally, and I actually wouldn't. Like, I'm not looking to go, hey, go do this. And that, to me, that's a treatment that you're now trying to do, and making as a permanent change is a total mistake. It's literally to elicit symptoms. It's a very big difference.
Longevity of this one, I feel like you're already assuming that one single treatment is not going to fix it.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I mean, we already know, not to foreshadow, we know that something happens around 2 miles of volume that's not related. Something changes to make it so his tissue capacity gets exceeded at 2 miles. That's not going to be caught at this beginning stage. We have to get him to that point. But I want to correct everything I can, confirm the diagnosis, and then when I move on to phase 2, where we're really stabilizing his capacity, I want to address any really clear contributing factors. Some of them are going to be based on what we just captured and like the functional exam, what his treatment response is. But we have to spend a little bit of time to really think through what does he need to do for his tissue to be able to handle his peak stresses. Otherwise, he's not going to get better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say a big part of that is probably identifying those triggers, whether they're hidden or right in front of your face.
I mean, we know he has hidden triggers. We know that it's not just running. There's something else that's contributing to reducing his capacity. Now, the most obvious one that when we think of these, especially with the currents, you always want to rule out an energy capacity issue. We want to make sure that his nutrition is on point, that he's not under
One that came to
fueling.
my mind, because for like how exhaustive of a list was put there was like nothing at all on fueling the body.
Yeah, and it would get pretty obvious. So this would be one of them where because of his history, I would almost insist on a dietitian consult, just because you want to rule out any issues right at the start, because he's going to be somebody. I don't want to get him to 2 miles and then the whole system collapse. And it's not because he can't mechanically handle it. It's because his physical capacity is such a point that his energy capacity is not keeping up, and it's leaching from what his tissues can rebuild. That's a huge issue. But if I went over his case, it would be an immediate referral for that. I would want that cleared.
I just feel like if it was a 16-year-old, which I know it's been years since the 16-year-old version of the post, but it's like, I just eat dino nuggets and mac and cheese.
That is all you ate.
Yeah, maybe. I don't remember what I was eating.
That's a weird
at 16.
combo of food.
Yeah, what was I eating at 16? That's what my kids eat now, but
Yeah.
I also feel like it's appropriate for
I do remember
teenagers to also be eating that.
I do remember you coming in with your daughter, and she had just like a hot dog and
She doesn't get the bun.
Yeah. I was like, that looks disgusting.
It really is.
It
But
looks gross. It was like kind of weirdly wet too. I was like, this is funny.
I feel so uncomfortable because you have to like put it up on the counter to buy it. And they're like, we have buns. I'm like, she doesn't want the bun.
She doesn't do a bun.
Yeah.
She doesn't do a bun. It's like, what type of weird abusive father? You don't let her. She doesn't eat bread. We're serious in this house.
No carbs. Yeah. Definitely not the recommendation. But yeah, hot dogs in a bag will solve your shin splints.
I know it. But let's just say like we work through all of that stuff, because I know a lot of this stuff is very specific to his case, but you want to know what things hurt it. And when we start to work through his exam, get all that stuff done, we start to do some treatment, we start to understand where he's overloading it, then we can get into giving him the tools. But I would want to see that I really understand his problem, and then I can start to address whatever things I caught in phase 1 with the diagnostics. I want to give it enough time that I correct it in phase 2, which I think would be a big issue for him. So let's say I catch a calf strength issue, which I don't think I'm going to see, because he can do 25 calf raises. Oh yeah, he just like put it on the back of his leg. I didn't see anything really about his glute max and his glute medius, so those would be the two other big ones, along with quad. But I just looking at him, I'm concerned that he doesn't have force absorption up the chain. So more, not so much his calf, more his quad is not strong enough, and his glute max and glute med aren't strong enough. So I would be looking for strength there, but also if there's dysfunction. So does he feel it in the front of his hip when he activates his glute max? Like we just side steps. Does he feel more in the front or on the side of his hip? What am I seeing when he does a squat? What am I seeing when he does a single leg jump? Like, where is he loading everything? Just the video that he had on there, he's very upright. So he's not really involving any of his glute max at all in his gait cycle. Those would be very useful things. Getting those back to a good strength portion, getting to where he can do symptom-free 25 single leg
It sounded like a lot
jumps.
of those exercises were kind of a part of what he was trying to do to heal up, but it's also like doing those the correct way. Make sure you're activating the right muscles. You talked about force absorption. I know I've had those issues before, and I kind of realized it, but didn't really know what to do about it. And, a couple of depth drops and a couple of jumps, and we quickly identified it, and I was able to fix it.
Yeah, because in this situation,
a minute,
it's actually very fixable. So if he's not hip dominant, he's definitely quad dominant, which is totally normal soccer players.
Right.
So that'd be one of the most easy, and it's a subtle difference. That'd be a very easy one, but he's going to need more than just a mild movement change. We have to really rebuild. His tissue capacity is shot. Like he has never, by how he's unloaded, he's absolutely reduced the tissue's ability to handle force. Like, so we have to give it enough time in phase 2 for that structure to change and heal and grow stronger. But I would be immediately getting his endurance back. So I'd be doing uphill walking immediately, getting him up to where it's like, there's no limit from an endurance standpoint. Like running is not how he's going to build endurance. We would get him uphill walking, loading the heck out of it, get his cardio on, and be perfect. Just to get him really moving it. So he basically, what he can handle starts to go up. Like, so his stress capacity starts to go up.
What else does it tell us about his capacities?
Well, I mean, I think that the big thing is that there's a clear mismatch between his physical capacity and tissue capacity. And then when he starts to load and we starts to progress, the mismatch between those two means that he loses his therapeutic gap. And if you remember, the therapeutic gap is just the difference between what his treatments are that makes the tissue get better and his triggers that make it get worse. He basically can have a period of time where he gets a therapeutic gap potentially. I'm not sure if that actually does happen when he takes time off, other than he just reduces his peak stresses. But what you want to see is that you are able to continue healing the tissue even as we progress load. He's losing that at some point, and you want to protect it. And one of the easiest ways to protect it with somebody like him would be a brace. So like a post tib brace, a surf strap, either of those would help him a lot. You can also do modified lodi. He has used orthotics, which will post his foot, which will give some mechanical advantage to the posterior tib. It'll slow how fast he pronates, but once again, it's an assumption that that's what's driving it. So I'm pretty confident it's going to be a force absorption issue. And once we get that part down, like where I feel like everything is like a 5 out of 5 strength wise in his leg, he tolerates all the tests. Basically, at that point, we have to figure out what happens when his volume builds, because something most likely changes.
The therapeutic gap was very difficult for me to understand, learn, and implement. And once I did it, things changed drastically for me.
What changed? And what made it so that we were able to understand it?
This podcast and you beating it into my brain.
Are you being serious?
Yeah.
I love it.
No, I think that I had the light bulb moment. I don't know, like episode 20 or something like that.
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, if I stop making it angry and do things that will heal it, it'll get better.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Miracle. Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting when you think about like we've made fun of like do these exercises, these two things or whatever, because it removes all the complexity of what actually happens. When somebody shows up, it's way more complex, which is fine. Sometimes there will be a single exercise that gives you a therapeutic gap, and then it lasts and it corrects all the issues that the person could be having. Those are really cool moments, and it's like pretty simple when that happens. But oftentimes it's not that, and oftentimes it changes throughout the course of treatment, course of a rehab plan, and you have to adjust with it. And so when he gets to this next phase where he really starts to run, we start to build running, I'm absolutely going to reduce force by making him run uphill. So that would be the uphill running, get it to where he can handle, 30 to 60 minutes straight uphill, because I'm taking out the load, making sure that his mechanics and everything can handle it. But then I'm going to be constantly rechecking to see that no muscle changes how well it's firing.
But what if he lives in Nebraska and there's no hills to be
He's
seen?
a treadmill.
Okay.
Do you know there are some hills in Nebraska?
Are there? Okay.
Yeah. Really high hills. Not that.
Stop bragging.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know. It's a great state.
You live by the railroad. We talk about that.
We used to run on the railroad just to, run
too.
into trains just to see what happened.
Yeah.
That never happened. We never did that.
No, you're still here.
No, it was like terrifying. They scared the hell out of us when in class. Like one of our mares was missing limbs from getting run over by a train.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty wild.
Would not
Dude,
recommend.
Terrifying. Those things are so much bigger than what you think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I grew up by the train tracks too, so I know how scary they can be. And me and my brother would just run along them and find dead animals. And
Are you being serious?
yeah.
Oh, they didn't have it fenced off.
No, not at all.
They like just go out there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My God.
Yep.
Okay.
Upstate New York. Anyway, so it sounds like it's kind of a combination between looking at their average stress problems and peak stress problems. I mean, you hate to say it, but you might have to get away from playing soccer or your preferred sport for a little bit to create that therapeutic gap.
Yes.
And then as things progress, be able to reintroduce it. I know I certainly had to do that with.
Yeah, because you have to think through like the things that he's adding on. So peak stresses could be the amount of running that he's doing, but it could also be the speed that he's going at. It could also be the deceleration, the acceleration when he's going after a ball. So to me, the first thing I'd want to get is his ability to handle volume, because that seems when he's having a breakdown. That's where I would start. And then from there, after I own the distances that he needs to be able to handle to play soccer as much as he wants, then I would go for higher and higher stresses. I actually think those will be easier for us to handle. It's the higher volume that I think is the bigger issue, because he has a delayed feedback loop.
Yeah.
And it builds.
That, at least to me, when you talk about volume, seems to slightly contradict the force absorption part of it. So, like,
tell me more. Like, what's
no,
more?
just like I think of force absorption in terms of more peak stresses.
Yeah.
As where, at least for a soccer player that's running 90 plus minutes, that long term, I would say that's more of an average stress to be able to even just, play soccer at a recreational level. Like, you just need to be able to run for a long time. So
So think of it more like if you repeatedly produce the same stress over and over and over again on the exact same tissue, it can cause the tissue to become less resilient, more malleable to the mechanical stresses that are happening versus a single one-off stress that you didn't have time to recover from. So with his situation, though, what I think is happening is he's most likely having a muscle turn off that happens with longer running. Is like that to me the bigger issue. So I wouldn't be surprised if
Like
he
he gets
handles
fatigued earlier or
an inhibition.
yeah.
Right. So you can have the inhibition that's happening from a patterning issue, from a synergistic dominance issue, like the TFL turns on or the hamstring turns on, shuts off the glute, or adductor magnus shuts off the glute. So you can have these muscles that become dominant that shouldn't become dominant, that reduce your ability to absorb force. You could have where, a whole bunch of different issues, but arthrogenic inhibition where a joint gets irritated, it shuts it down. You can have there's some cool research where it shows that you can have a issue with your cortical map, like how your brain represents your body, and he's lost the ability to find certain muscles, and that can get stressed and overloaded. So you have all these different reasons that can be driving it. I think he's going to handle one-off activities really well. Just from what he's like showing, I think that's going to come really well. It's going to be the higher volume stuff where I think some of these mechanisms that are driving the recurrence are going to come out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sounds like a lot of this is just to help kind of confirm the diagnosis. What's your progression after confirming the diagnosis?
After I confirm the diagnosis, after we get all the muscle, everything in the force absorption chain to be normal, where it's not hurting, and we have a really clear idea of which artificial capacity tools, whether it's like a strap or taping, what thing will help him just to make sure that we can start to load him and run without it coming back. Then it's like building a really clear progression. So when we start to progress his tissue capacity, he's got to find we have to have really clean key signs. So bone tenderness, he has to be able to monitor certain muscles, make sure they don't shut off. We have to make sure that he has a really clear tissue response. So remember the 1 through 6, like does it hurt during, does it hurt after, later in the same day, the next day up to 72 hours, at the end of a whole running week, or at the end of a whole program, because those are all pointing to different problems developing. So we want to understand what his tissue response actually is. All of those are just feedback loops. And then once we own the feedback loops, we can put treatment and game plans and strategy around any bad response. But I really want to catch responses. So the most fun part of his rehab is going to be when we start to load the hell out of him, because it's going to seem we're going to have flare-ups. He's going to be somebody that has like flare-ups and be totally normal, but every flare-up is super valuable because then it gives us information on like, oh, this is what happened, so we got to correct for this.
Yeah. Then obviously building that therapeutic gap. What else is a kind of a part of that progression, maybe for others dealing with something similar?
So the most obvious one, so the first thing is you have to have a key sign. You have to understand if there's any other things that are contributing to it. Or somebody with shin splint type pain, like so if it's pain in that medial tibia area, you're most likely not handling force absorption. So you want to make sure you get all your force absorbers really firing well. You want to have tools to help you keep it. And then you want to make sure that when it starts to develop, that's where you have to work. So that his issue is not where all the suggestions he got are treatments focused on initial management. They're not focused on keeping him healthy and eventually getting to where his tissue capacity matches his physical capacity, and he doesn't have to worry about this crap anymore. Because it's right now he's basically, I don't think he would trust any progression. I think he would be nervous. He's always on the edge of having a full-on setback. You have to address that part of it. And so not a ton else until we dig into his case specifically, but I think it highlights that if you don't have a game plan and like a strategy of how you attack something like this, that's why these recurrent type injuries like this become such monsters to actually manage. Like they get worse and worse because he's literally losing more and more tissue capacity. So his hole when he was 13 is much deeper now than back then. Like back then in 13, we could have really easily managed this. Now it's like the strategy is way more complicated.
Like it's almost guaranteed that it's gotten worse over that time period.
Yes, because of how he's tried to manage it.
Right. Artificial capacities. I know we talked about it a little bit. Bracing, taping. It sounds like orthotics had been tried.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people are looking for that like mechanical advantage or mechanical pain decreaser.
Yeah, I think what's kind of interesting is should not be permanent unless it has to be permanent. So if you go down an orthotic route right off the bat, that's not useful, because if you immediately do an orthotic, to me, instead of getting and answering the problem and then correcting it to where your muscle can handle it, it's now a permanent crutch. You can do that. If that's worked well for you, I'm totally fine with it. It's not the route I like to go, because I think it becomes a permanent treatment, permanent crutch, and you always have to have it. And then I find those cases, if they get worse, are much harder to manage.
I wonder if the people in the barefoot running community didn't like that was written in there.
The orthotics. I know I did like that. I was kind of wondering. I was like, they're like, this guy can't be in this group.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
You're moderated out of here.
How are you wearing orthotics when you're barefoot, buddy?
Right. Any other tools in that bag that you would use?
No, I would say I think we get more into specifics with stuff, but I don't think I don't think the actual treatments are complicated.
Orthotics or something like that.
No.
Tell me more about the uphill treadmill walking
program.
Yeah. Well, like why
would I do that?
Part of it. Yeah.
Well, so when you're going uphill, you're going to get more glute max. It's going to reduce load. Walking is different than running in that you don't have a flight period. So it's like the reverse. When somebody's walking uphill, it's going to be dramatically less load, but he's still going to get a very large cardiovascular response. So I want his cardio to be very solid. I don't want him gaining fitness from running. That's not how we're going to start it. So I will often start people immediately on an uphill walking program with these types of issues if they have access to a treadmill, obviously, or access to a mountain. But they can't do the downhill portion because that'll overload it. So it's very useful, because I think oftentimes somebody like him, he'll probably try to build fitness via running, which is not how I would build his fitness.
At least in the initial phase.
No, not in the initial phase. And so I like to get the uphill part, and then it gets them used to the kind of the grind, and I'll actually have them run at the same pace that they do the walking. So I'll have them walking, and then like 2.4 miles per hour, then I'll have them run at that, because getting the impulse, getting to where they're actually having to handle flight period and the
force
stance
absorption
and all that stuff. But I do it in a way that takes out because when you're going uphill, you don't get the same level of anterior posterior force. There's certain pieces that get removed to dramatically make it less load to the whole complex. And that's why uphill running to me is super valuable, but it also gets way more glute max activation than any other form of walking.
Okay. Would strength training be a part of your progression?
Possibly. It depends on how big of an issue we're catching. I think it is interesting, kind of shows once again, the randomness of it. The strength training piece, let's say that we do think he's missing absolute strength as his biggest issue. I don't think that's the issue, but let's say that is the issue. Strength training is the best way to go about it. You can be very systematic on it. I don't think it'll fix this problem, obviously. I think the issue is more very specific to running. Something is happening when he runs that then changes when he gets to a certain volume.
Okay. So maybe a part of a long-term, just general
health.
Yeah.
It'll make him perform better. He'll get better hip extensor strength. He'll get all the benefits that happen with it. But do I think that has to be part of his rehab plan? No.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Just to kind of close out, what do you think are kind of the biggest takeaways from this specific case? And are you putting a guarantee on being able to fix it?
Oh, absolutely no guarantee. No. I wish I could. I mean, the thing is that he's clearly motivated.
I don't think they're in state either. I think the likelihood of if they were closer to Tucson, Arizona,
it might be a different story. Well, I mean, so the thing is like just reading through his stuff and the whole info drop that he gave me. Yeah, there's so many things that just I don't think have been managed appropriately. He seems not. I made it sound like I don't think it'd be that complicated of a rehab, but he clearly handles load. Like he has periods where it goes away, and I've had before where people can't do anything without pain, and those are very complicated. Like somebody getting surgery in the area, and those. Like where they can't do any loading without it hurting, and we could rehab those. So like this type of thing where he actually has a period where he can actually have no symptoms makes me feel even more confident.
As well as just being young. I feel like there's so many things that you can just kind of dial in and get to a better place. So
yeah, but no, he just needs a rehab. He actually needs a plan. Because right now it's like more throwing a whole bunch of stuff at it, hoping something sticks. That's the worst way to go about it. But I honestly think it's because of social media and all this other crap. You have people basically will do one-off treatments as if, like
just aggressively hip thrust 300 times a day, and you'll be better.
Or let me dig my finger into it as hard as I can. I'm gonna break up the scar tissue, and now it's all done. Some stupid crap like that, where it's like, no, that's not a plan. That's just a treatment. I don't know. I always think it's funny when people define themselves by a treatment. So I think it's dumb, but I think his, I feel bad for him, but I do. He definitely has really good rehab potential.
Assuming he works with you, what's your kind of prognosis timeline?
Where he could totally run, no issue, year to 2 years.
That's a long time.
But I think he'll be pain free and running within 2 or 3 months. But his flare potential is so high. Because I just by based off how he talked,
it just needs kind of constant management for that year to 2 years to like kind of get fully cleared.
Yeah, because I think he's going to have massive flare-ups during the course of it. Like I think he'll have something that will all of a sudden he'll overload it. I think it'll take
like I'm feeling good. I'm gonna go.
And then just remember, tissue capacity takes way longer to build. Right. So physical capacity, you can lose it quickly, but it comes back quickly. If you unload, your tissue capacity will be lost fairly fast, but your time to rebuild it is dramatically longer than what it takes to build physical capacity. So that kind of bizarre difference between the two means that your game plan has to build into it how long it'll take for his tissue capacity to catch up. And I'm guessing based off of I think he's a certain level of soccer. His physical capacity is gonna be quite high. So I don't think that he's gonna be a short-term one because I think his flare-up potential is super high. Rehab potential is great. Flare-up potential, like where he has gigantic like increases in pain, are going to be super high, and it'll mess with his head. So that's why like his plan of care, just like laying it out, of like making it really clear, you are going to have a flare-up, which is totally normal and fine with this type of a problem, especially with this level of recurrence. And understand it's a learning cycle. You probably stop doing something, you miss something.
You got to follow the plan. Yep, and really stick to it.
Yeah. So it's cool. Much longer.
Well, I'm excited to hear some follow-up, hopefully in a couple of months, assuming he ends up working with you and the team. And then maybe we can even have him on as a guest to highlight how great. Oh, I think that would be the only scenario where we have him on.
Yeah, it'd be funny. It's like, if you guys never hear about this again, we failed. It's just like, it was a total bomb. I'm like, that was bizarre.
We're shutting the podcast
we did
down,
the health up.
We're shutting it down.
I decided to quit as a PT after working with this guy. So
going back to farming.
I'd be a railroader. Okay. I'd be railroading.
A conductor.
Mate, lots of
choo-choo.
Yeah, that's my dad did. So engineer.
Choo-choo.
Yeah, the choo-choo.
That was fun.
I know.
All right. We'll see you on the next one.
PYP, baby. Peace. If you are enjoying this podcast and finding the information useful, please consider supporting us by following the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen.
By subscribing, you help ensure we can continue bringing you this high-level training in rehab science every single week. Leaving us a 5-star review on those platforms is also one of the absolute best, zero-cost ways to support our mission and help grow this community. Our podcast is proudly sponsored and brought to you by Smith Performance Center. If you are an active adult looking to bridge the gap between rehab and elite performance, or if you want to optimize your health from every angle, go to smithperformancecenter.com. They offer elite physical therapy, strength and sports training, and dedicated nutrition coaching to help you build a resilient body that handles the activities you love without breaking down.
If you want to connect with us, see our training clips, or watch the full video versions of these episodes, follow us on Instagram at Spiker Keicher, Craig Smith PT, and Past Your Prime Podcast. And subscribe to the Past Your Prime Podcast on YouTube.
Thanks for tuning in, and remember, you're not past your prime, you're just getting started.
PYP, baby.
Peace. Wait, have I ever said anything inappropriate?
You definitely have. 1 second. Go ahead. 1 second.
So I'll clap. He'll do the clap. Then I can speak.
Wait, what are we doing?
Don't give him a refresher. He needs to be paying attention in class.
I was definitely not paying attention.
know.
I still don't know what I'm doing. Okay. You clap, I clap, you clap.
We clap.
Mine was way better, by the way.
Okay, welcome.
So, he did. All right. Do we have to go again?
Yes.
That's awesome. All right.